it was commissioned by the Steppenwolf Theater in Chicago, and first performed there. And then, yay! So it was commissioned by Steppenwolf, and it was actually commissioned for their Young Audiences series, which is also the previous play that I was familiar with, The Bluest Eye, the adaptation of The Bluest Eye that Lydia did, was also commissioned by Steppenwolf. And I think I just bring that up because I think Lydia is a real genius with adaptation, and that this play is sort of the most imaginative adaptation I've ever seen of anything, and in fact, it's almost a reimagining more than an adaptation. I think you're right to say, I don't remember any of this from Incidents. It's I think Lydia was inspired more by by what Harriet was trying to do in her time, in that contemporary moment, which was awaken people, sort of like, poke people's social conscience in a really particular way at the time to move people to rise up and support the abolition of slavery. But right now, we're in a different historical moment, and I think Lydia was interested in writing something that addressed an audience's perception of race, class, power, gender, and voice in a way that might move people to a different kind of action or a different kind of understanding. Very similar, I think, to Harriet's intention at the time.
And she says early on in the play that she doesn't want to tell you the same old story about slavery, and I think that feeds into that sentiment of making it of recontextualizing it into something that's relevant in the modern day, that doesn't feel just dragged out of history, but that feels alive and meaningful today still. How did you, in terms of taking the script and then weaving it into this whole production, how did you try to avoid telling the same old story about slavery? I know there are production elements that you tried to avoid, right?
Well, the first rule was no bare feet. We were very clear on that. There had to be shoes. And then Lydia even wrote a line about shoes later on for Rage to say, which is a little wink to, you see a lot of slave plays or slave, movies or historical depictions, and everyone's always barefoot and wearing like burlap sacks. So that was one of the things. I don't know, what else did we talk about that stuff, you guys, in production?
We didn't want to have the story be the same thing that you see where, it's either pity us or us, or like pity us playing the slaves, or the characters of the slaves are full of rage and anger at their situation, but to try to open a new page to understanding and the psychological effects of slavery.
We had some really brilliant slavery scholars here last week, and one of the things they were saying was that the sense of the different levels of community that existed within the slave culture are really evident in this play. That it's not just a play about oppression and two different levels of people, but you see the relationship that Harriet has with her grandmother. You see the romantic relationships that she has, and then you hear all these stories through the narratives that are woven in alongside Harriet's story, that show you, I think, a much more multifaceted view of slavery than we might get from history books, that we might have sort of left off at in middle school or high school when we kind of stop studying this kind of topic as a core curriculum. I was wondering, amongst the actors who play true life characters, what you felt was your responsibility or your concerns about depicting people who existed in real life, probably especially the lead character, but also Dr. Norcom, Mistress Norcom, what you looked at. Did you research your characters a lot, and did you make decisions based on that research, or did you try to just take what was in the script and build from there?
I think for me it was a little bit of all of those elements. I think my biggest thing in thinking about this character and was definitely remembering that Harriet was a real person. She was a human being, just like you and me. You know, like Megan and I had a lot of conversations because I think at first, when we first started rehearsing, I was, you know, just playing her like she was very sweet and very innocent and this kind of thing. And Megan and I had multiple conversations where she was like, "No, this is a girl. She has a smart mouth. She, you know, she has a crush on boys. She runs around. She lays around. You know, this is a human being." And so, you know, taking in all the historical information and taking in her strength and what she was able to accomplish during her life. And then at the end of the day, remembering that this is a real person who walked these streets, who is here in this place. So I think that's the most important thing when playing historical. Yes.